Everyone here, everyone is present, so I guess
Michael Jackson.
Is leading the meeting.
so Trandy?
Yes.
Now, so once Michael chimes back in, then we can call the meeting to order and do the roll call.
Excellent. The minute that he's back on, I'll do the roll call.
Okay. Before somebody else drops.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Michael Jackson, attorney.
Is joining the meeting.
Here, everyone is present, so
Okay. Michael, do you want to give your location, please?
Hotel Ranch.
Okay. This is Trandy Phillips, BRN President. I'm convening the board meeting on Thursday, September 27th of 2018, and it's a board meeting with teleconference site. Item 1.0, call to order, roll call and establishment of a quorum. I'm Trandy Phillips, President, and I'm here. Could you read the list of names and then have them confirm that they're here, please?
Yes. Spencer, do I need to have Trandy confirm her location?
Yes, we have to read it.
Trandy, so we have you here. Can you please confirm for the record your location?
Definitely. So the Trandy Phillips location is 1832 Redwood Drive, Martinez, California.
Elizabeth Woods,
Here.
and your location, please?
173 Vineyard Circle, Sonoma, California.
Barbara Yaroslavsky,
Present, Spahn Community Clinic, 8405 Beverly Boulevard, Los Angeles, California.
Pilar de la Cruz Reyes,
16, Pilar Del Cruz Simoleon here, 1625 East Shaw Avenue, Fresno.
Imelda Zahab Butkowicz,
Here, 1309 L Street, Bakersfield, California.
Michael Jackson,
Hotel Ranch Public Library.
And is that address 2015 Birch Road, Chula Vista, California?
Yes.
Thank you.
all members are at the teleconference locations.
Thank you. So we've established a quorum. So I'd like to go on to item 2.0, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment either at the meeting site or at any of the teleconference locations?
None here.
I'm here.
None
Okay.
here.
All right, none here. So hearing that, I'd like to go on to item number 3.0, which is report of the legislative committee, and item 3.1, which is discuss bills of interest to the board. Legislative bills that impact the board, which are AB 2958 and SB 1137. They should have a report, please.
Good morning. My name is Kay Winecombe. I'm a nursing education consultant and the liaison to the Legislative Committee. In your packet, you do have the tables related to the bills that the board has been following for the two-year legislative session that concludes this year. And because these bills have been prepared for the materials by September 14th, there have been changes in the status in that last column for a number of bills. They have been chaptered since the last meeting. On today's agenda, we have two bills, and of those two bills, one has already been chaptered, and I'll allude to that a little bit later. At the committee meetings in August, it was the direction from the committee that because of the short time frame between this meeting and the end of the period during which Governor Brown has to either chapter bill, approve bills or veto bills, that letters were sent for those positions that we had already taken. And one of those bills, Assembly Bill 3115, a letter was sent because Senate Bill 944.
Excuse me, that
Sorry.
bill is not listed here on the agenda for discussion.
Oh, I was doing that as part of the table update.
You can't
All
If I
right.
had taken
No, you can already discuss the stuff, I think, that's on the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So
I
even though it's on the
apologize.
table updates, you can't discuss them?
No,
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you, then we'll move on. Continue, Kate, please.
Then I would need direction from legal counsel about the letter of support for the board's position that the board had been made aware of,
And which bill is that for?
Assembly Bill 3115.
You can just go ahead and accept. The board can just go ahead and accept that. You can just give it to Dr. Morris.
Great, thank you, thank you. All right, then we will proceed to the remaining bill, which is Assembly Bill 2958. This is Assemblymember Quirk's bill related to state bodies, meetings, teleconference. The bill had been amended twice since the board's meeting, and the most recent amendments require the notice of a meeting to identify the primary physical location. It requires the agenda to be posted at least 10 days in advance of the meeting, and it will include information regarding the physical meeting location, but it's not required to disclose information regarding any remote location. And the third amendment requires the state body to provide a means by which the public may remotely hear audio of the meeting or remotely observe the meeting, including, if available, equal access equivalent to members of the state body who are participating remotely. And the previous committee and board position were to oppose the bill.
Can I add additional information about Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, do we want to have discussion?
Hold on,
Any
excuse,
discussion, please?
Trandy, we have additional information to add.
Trandy, this is
Oh, okay, good.
This is Stacy Baruman. I just wanted to let the board members know that the author's office had contacted me regarding the board's position on the bill, and to let me know that the language in the bill is permissive. It's not a requirement to hold teleconference meetings in this fashion if the board chooses to follow Bagley-Keene for teleconference meetings. And I know that one of the reasons that the board had taken an opposed position in the past is that it was a shall bill, that the board had to follow the directions for this teleconference meeting. And now the language has been changed to show that it is a may. You can use this if you choose to, but you can also follow Bagley-Keene for teleconference meetings as the board currently does.
So can I have a point of information? This is Barbara Yaroslawski. My point of information was, within the bill, when I read it, it stated that the name of the board member would have to be listed along with the location. Is what I'm hearing that that's permissive and is not going to be required?
That is correct.
Okay.
If a member will be participating remotely, the name will have to be, now of course, it's permissive, but the name of that board member would have to be listed on the agenda, and it would state participating remotely. And you don't include any
You
address.
just said the opposite. Spencer, you just said the
No, you
opposite.
just
of what I
said
said.
No,
both, yeah.
there's both. What Stacy was saying is that the bill would allow that, only the name to be listed. But the boards have the discretion to continue to follow Bagley-Keene by listing the location itself.
Only the
Without the
location
name.
and
So
not
it's
the
either
name.
or.
Oh, but
Is it-
only the location and not the name, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
None here.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I would move to accept it the way it is, as long as it's definitely maintained that it's permissive and not mandatory.
I second that.
So wait, so the motion is
The previous position was opposed.
to oppose, to maintain the opposed position?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was going to, oh, I apologize. I'm not in the opposed position anymore, as long as it's not mandatory.
Okay, so that's,
So that's not me making the motion.
Wait,
You're looking for motion to continue the opposition, and I'm suggesting that I'm not so much opposed anymore, unless I hear why I should be opposed.
So do we need a new motion?
yes, so,
If we opposed it originally, Trandy, because people's names were
Right.
going to be listed, and that has been taken out, I'm not so sure we should still be in an opposed position.
So
I'm
Trandy,
not willing.
she moved to support.
let's put a new motion out there. Do you choose to support the bill?
Okay, that's
Or
Can we watch? Just
watch,
Watch.
okay.
but with the qualifier included, please.
What is
But
it?
if it's watch, you're just watching it.
I'm happy to support as long as the qualifier is in there.
But let's watch it, because it's not in there yet.
That's correct.
Okay, then let's watch
I
it.
think that's risky. I agree. Just by
Okay.
the discussion, I think you should reconsider that.
So I put down a watch and along with the qualifiers why we're watching it.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Email them.
Please say who you are that are seconding.
Email the say how Bedgood seconds the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I would like to add one
Okay,
thing. The bill
Yes,
was
please,
enrolled and sent to the governor on September 10th. So the governor can either sign it or veto it. But keep in mind, it is on the governor's desk.
Why are we
He
discussing
has until the 30th.
Yes, he does.
We could still send a letter that says we are. Oh, so you're saying
So you don't want to send a
enrolled,
watch
what
to the
language
governor?
was enrolled with?
I'm sorry, you were talking over each other. What was that?
Go ahead, Barbara.
So my suggestion is if it's on the governor's desk, that we would send a support as long as a clarifying statement that the board members need not be listed on the agenda location.
And that we could follow the Bagley rules.
That's okay.
Yeah, I like that. So they're adding that language about following the Bagley team language. Okay, so now
Does this-
to the amended motion. Do I have your second?
Yes,
Who was that? No.
yes, I'll second that amendment.
Okay. Spencer, did you have some other concern? I heard you in the background.
Nothing. That's fine. No other
Okay.
concern.
Any further discussion? Are people ready to vote?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then let's do a roll call vote. If somebody could read off the roll, please.
Elizabeth Woods,
Yes.
Trandy Phillips,
Yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky,
Yes.
Pilar de la Cruz Reyes,
Yes.
Imelda Seha Buckowicz,
Yes.
Michael Jackson.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and send a letter of support for this bill then.
Thank you.
The second bill on the agenda was Senate Bill 1137, Senator Vidak's bill related to veterans, professional licensing, and benefits. That bill was approved by the governor in chapter Chapter 414, so that's no longer a bill for consideration today. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank
Hey, what was that bill? Can you tell me what it was?
414.
I know
Could you
that.
briefly describe it?
Certainly. The
Oh,
bill,
no,
the bill
1137, I'm sorry.
The bill would require the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Consumer Affairs to, in consultation with each other, take appropriate steps to increase awareness regarding professional licensing benefits available to veterans and their spouses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Kate, for your report. We really appreciate that.
You're welcome, Trinity. Goodbye.
Goodbye, thanks so much. Okay, moving on to item 4.0, which is information only, which is effective October 2nd of 2018. The Controlled Substance Utilization and Review Evaluation Cures mandate for furnishing nurse practitioners and nurse midwives. Consult cures prior to prescribing, ordering, administering, or furnishing a Schedule 2 through 4 controlled substance. So could you please do that report?
Thank you. This is Jeanette Wackerly, the Supervising Nursing Education Consultant here at the board in Sacramento and the liaison to the Practice Committee. The Practice Committee met on this agenda item on August 16th, 2018 and produced the document that's in front of you that's a notification to furnishing nurse practitioners and nurse midwives regarding the requirement to report to cures for substances, controlled substances 2, 3, and 4. The body of the AIS gives you some information. Do you want me to go through a little of it?
Yes, please.
Yes, I think you should.
Okay. For furnishing nurse practitioners and nurse midwives, the first time a patient is prescribed, ordered, administered, or furnished a controlled substance within 24-hour period or a previous business day before prescribing, ordering, administering, or furnishing controlled substances. This is a change for all prescribers, not just nurse midwives and nurse practitioners, but for all prescribers to look at the cures database in terms of whether or not a person is being prescribed, and then they can see it on the cures system. There are some exceptions to this, and I want to go over those. The exception applies to such patients receiving hospice care, patients admitted to specified facilities such as acute care hospitals, the patient is on the premises, or to patients that are part of a treatment or surgical procedure in a specified facility. If the quantity of controlled substance does not exceed a non-refillable 5-day supply of the controlled substance and is used in accordance with the directions for use. I've put on your documents, the where the nurse practitioners and midwives can obtain the information. There's consequences to not doing this particular check of the cures database. And so if nurse practitioners or nurse midwives do not check the cures database to identify if the patient has previously been prescribed controlled substances, that could be reported to the board for enforcement reasons. It's unclear yet whether that would be a one-time thing or whether that would be a pattern in which the prescriber, who is a nurse practitioner or a nurse midwife, is not consulting cures.
Can I answer? This is Michael Jackson.
Yes.
So since we're going to hold these people accountable for using this particular technology, does it work all the time?
I can't answer that,
Then I don't
Mr.
think
Jackson,
we-
because
we-
we're just starting out with this.
Let me
The
finish,
cures,
please.
Michael, the cures is, Michael.
Let me finish, please.
Sorry.
Barbara, wait until Michael's done and then you can comment.
I am.
I don't think we should be holding these nurses accountable and disciplining them if we can't guarantee that the technology that they're supposed to be reporting to is working.
Can I back up
Hey,
for just a
Barbara?
moment? I want to back up for just a minute about alerting the public that the board took action. The practice committee was on August 16th, and on September 17th, the board took the action to notify all furnishing nurse practitioners and nurse midwives through email about this responsibility that places them to have to look at the cures database. It's on, if you look on the board's website on alert or quick hits, you'll see the information. And I personally contacted the organizations to make sure that they also had information out about cures. As to whether or not it is reliable as a system, I can't answer that.
Barbara, you can go ahead and ask your
Okay, I
question.
apologize. Michael, I apologize. The issue is that a nurse, everybody has to show a good faith effort. So if you were to use it and it might not, for some reason, be down at the time you used it, you would put that into your medical record keeping, and then it would be obvious that you had tried. But the attempt is that they've been working with this system for over a year.
Who says the cure becomes a part of the
Cures is across all licensees that are doing any kind of prescribing of specific kinds
It
of drugs.
doesn't say that the cures has to be documented in a patient's medical record.
No, but if you're asking what happens if it's not working, why should you have?
What I'm saying is the fact that you check cures is not required to be a part of the medical record.
Not checking cures can get you into trouble, that's all I'm saying. And it becomes a discipline issue across the board.
Just as we had issues with Breeze, which is a new computer system that has cost us a significant amount of money, I just want to be sure that it's going to work if we're going to hold people accountable for it.
I have a question. Should we be discussing in such detail because this is only informational?
You can, so long as it's within the parameters of the agenda item, even though it's informational.
I think it's for clarification, Imelda.
Yes.
So we need clarification.
What happens is that the Cures offers a report, a patient activity report.
It's available, it is available through the Cures Department itself, through DOJ.
Right. It's currently being used, that it's to check to see if people are doctor shopping, nurse shopping, prescription shopping, whatever shopping they're doing, to see if other practitioners are providing the same medication at the same time, to make that practitioner aware of the fact that maybe they should not be prescribing something because the patient was just down the street at another clinic or something. It's to protect, for public protection, Cures Act. I don't think we need to micromanage what if.
I think we have, this is Jeanette, I think we have to give, this is just actionable as information, but we don't really have information about activity on the Cures database as yet. It starts October 2nd. After we have had a time with the Cures database and we can ask the DOJ some questions, then we will get some answers, but I'm not able to give those answers today because that database has been in use for quite a while.
And the reason why I ask this is because we use it on a daily basis in my department.
Yes.
A daily basis between the pharmacist, the nurse practitioners, and the emergency department physician. We use it on a daily basis. And sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, we can only do what we have with what we have.
This is Pilar. I kind of agree with Michael in the sense I don't want to be having all these cases come before the board if it's due to the fact that it isn't working. And I think we need to be cognizant of that as this moves forward, so that there's some kind of a standard or some kind of a number of somebody's abusing this, okay, but I think if someone forgets one time or there's a problem with the mechanism, the technology, I don't think those should be coming before the board.
Well, they're not coming yet. Perhaps we should monitor, wait and monitor, and see if they come before.
Yeah, but if the discipline,
I think the discussion has gone too far because it's only supposed to relate to furnishing nurse practitioners and nurse midwives. And then consulting Cures.
This is
Betty, your question?
Yes, I do have a question for Jeanette, and I don't see it in this particular thing to be presented now, but I think I saw it on the information you have sent me for the next nursing practice meeting about this issue. Do nurse practitioners have to take a medical course now to do this?
No, not that I'm
Or
aware of.
am I? Okay, then perhaps I read it incorrectly, but I thought there was something that said that all nurse practitioners have to take a 2-hour course to get familiar with this.
Let me explain a bit, if I could.
Okay.
Remember that the furnishing law first went in, the furnishers, especially nurse practitioners, could order 3 through 5 scheduled drugs.
Right.
And then there was a later bill that was brought forward that allows them to do Schedule 2. So most of the nurses in all our schools and those that transition to California have to complete a 2-hour course of Schedule 2s. California Association of Nurse Practitioners is a major organization that produces that particular program. It's online. So that course requirement has been covered by the board since its inception. And it's handled by licensing here, Nancy Van Voren in Advanced Practice Licensing. And so the DEA regularly checks every nurse practitioner's furnishing number to see if they are if they have Schedule 2 privileges, and that is documented on their licensing screen, their NPF screen, and it says specialty Schedule 2. That's how that happens. That's how that happens.
Well, that happens if you are indeed prescribing narcotics. You don't have to if you don't have a prescribing narcotics. this is what I'm asking. This is my question. If, and there are some of us who do not prescribe narcotics for one reason or another, do those people then have to take this course? Does that put any more on them to take this course, whether or not they furnish narcotics?
Well, right now, for all California schools, it's inclusive in their curriculums, and we have copies of it. If you're coming from out of state, that's a different question. We have to query the school as to what content is there for Schedule 2. Worst comes to worst, they have to take a course here in California, and many of them do, because they can't verify or validate to the advanced practice licensing person that they've met this requirement. Did I answer the question?
Not exactly, because I'm not talking about in the schools. I'm talking about those of nurse practitioners, those of us who are now practicing in California. You do not have to hold an additional license to do narcotics. You'd have to apply for that. Some of us do, some of us don't. If you don't have that now, does this obligate those of us who don't have that to now take the course?
No. In other words, it's up to you, the furnisher, whether or not, what drugs and devices that you're going to furnish. So if you're not furnishing any controlled substance, you don't need a DEA number. So there's no obligation for nurse practitioners and midwives to furnish controlled substances. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's essentially the same. If you're not doing it, there's nothing that's going to...
Nothing that's going to make you do it, no.
No, you have to do it voluntarily. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a question. When you're done, I have a question. Barbara,
Yes.
do we have to have anything written into the guidelines about, I mean, I don't think I've ever read a case about a nurse that's been overprescribing and has gotten into discipline, but that may be just my lack of memory. But
Barbara?
do we have to have written in, yeah.
That is beyond this agenda item to discuss
So I'm just
disciplinary
looking at
guidelines.
The next sentence, is it introduction to the next sentence, and the next sentence is that given the rules that anyone that is prescribing Schedule 2 through 4 drugs has to take a look at the cures database, does that mean that we're going to have to revise our disciplinary guidelines to include that?
Again, this is
that's
informational
the-
only. It is not to discuss disciplinary
Okay,
guidelines
okay, I
is not
apologize.
related to this agenda item.
Okay, then I apologize. Are we going to put this on our website?
It is there.
Okay.
It was actually published, I have September 18th. You go into alert, and then you can probe into the different categories, yes. On our website.
Thank you.
You betcha. That concludes my report.
Jeanette?
Yes?
Jeanette? Hi. Trandy, just point of clarification. Is this going to be discussed again? Now that you've given us this information today, will there be any more discussion at Nursing Practice Committee, or are we done at this point?
I didn't post anything for discussion on the next practice committee. If you wish that, I'd be happy to. If you want to, determine the activity that's going on with cures, is that after October 2nd? But I didn't plan it.
That's what I'm thinking needs to happen.
Certainly, it's an enforcement issue, I know, so we can get together and figure out what we want to put additionally to the practice committee.
Okay.
The practice committee agenda is in, correct? Yes.
October. Yes.
October, so
But it
it would
could
have to
be-
wait till January,
Okay.
okay?
All right. So on this agenda item, sounds like I can't go any farther, but it's something that we probably need to follow up on.
Okey doke, will do.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5.0, discussion and possible action regarding the advanced practice registered nurse rulemaking to adopt sections 1483.1, 1483.2, and 1486, and to amend sections 147, 1417, 1480, 1481, 1482, 1483, and 1484 of Title 15, Division 14 of the California Code of Regulations. Please have the report.
Good morning, board members. My name is Dean Fairbanks, and I'm Budget and Regulatory Analyst with the board. In your packet today, you should have received the Advanced Practice APR and proposed recommendations. A little background. Last year, we had the decision of disapproval for this rulemaking package, and we began right away working with the OAL attorney on all the issues that needed to be addressed. We done the work and had a third and fourth comment period to address a lot of the issues in the disapproval. The completed package was sent over to the Department of Consumer Affairs Legal Office back in June. Upon the review process, DCA approved it and it went over to the agency. And the agency has some questions and made some recommendations in terms of what we need to do to move the package back to OAL for approval. So this recommendation is highlighting those items that the agency and DCA Legal have recommended that we make. So recommended changes to 1480 definitions. 1480 Section A, it is recommended to strike health from primary care, and that would basically streamline all the information across the language to be congruent with 1480 Section B. We initially put that in as a non-substantive change, but we have to make that a substantive change. The next recommendation is adding the following definition to 1480, and that would be proposed subsection T, and that defines clinical field related to nursing. And that definition is there, but I will read that for the record. It's clinical field related to nursing means a specialized field of clinical practice in one of the following categories of nurse practitioners as recognized by the National Organization of Nurse Practitioner Faculties, known as NONPF, which are family, individual, across the lifespan, adult gerontology primary care, adult gerontology acute care, neonatal, pediatrics primary care, pediatrics acute care, women's health, gender related, and psychiatric mental health across the lifespan. This language would address the recommendation to have that clinical field related to nursing as needed for the regulation package. The third recommendation is to amend page 4 of the nurse practitioner furnishing number application. There we addressed the language on the key points on page 3 to identify those health and safety codes that were necessary for the pharmacology course. In the advanced pharmacology enabling objectives on page 4, we're looking to add applicable legal requirements and strike out and in compliance with health and safety codes. So we identified those updated health and safety codes on page 3. We're taking off that reference on page 4. In the packet that you had today, I highlighted all the yellow changes and proposed recommendations for you. Are there any questions that I can answer?
It sounds like we don't have any questions, so is there any other comments?
I make a recommendation we adopt.
Let me assist with the language.
Yes, please, Spencer.
The motion should be moved to approve the amendments to the Advanced Practice Registered Nurses Rulemaking to adopt sections 1483.1, 1483.2, and 1486, and amend sections 1417, 1480, 1481, 1482, 1483, and 1484 of Title 16, Division 14 of the California Code of Regulations, direct staff to continue the rulemaking process and delegate the authority to the executive officer to make all non-substantive changes and to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process.
Is that your motion, Michael?
So moved.
Okay.
Michael Jackson.
This is Trandy Phillips, and I'll second. Okay, so who seconded it?
Wood.
Okay, Betty Wood seconded, all right. Any further discussion? Then we'll vote on the motion, and if you could please read the roll.
Elizabeth Woods,
Yes.
Trandy Phillips,
Yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky,
Yes.
Pilar de la Cruz Reyes,
Yes.
Imelda Seha Butkowicz,
Yes.
Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to item 6.0, which is in closed session, so let us know when you're ready to begin that report.
So we'll adjourn from open session.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can.
so we have to go into closed session now.
Yes. And there are no public members there or members of the public there at any of your locations. Is that correct? And if that,
Correct.
okay, so you don't have to hang a closed session sign out then.